Here taunga hoku nui, here taunga ararau, here taunga haro te kahu, here taunga takotonoa. I'm imaginary skimming.
Darling and a good skim.
Just swinging off the trees and bombing into the water. Just thought that was all natural and it would always be here. And now we've got kids going to rescue eels. You've seen these eels crawling into the mud trying to hide from the sun, and no water in the stream. It's no longer a stream. The problem we have here in Heretaunga Plains is that there's not enough water to go around. There's been this over-emphasis on providing irrigators with as much water as they want. The demand is growing too fast to be sustainable, and it's having these adverse impacts on others in the community.
You could just imagine this being really deep, because you can see how up there it's shallow and then it just comes down like a huge bone. But I think under those like grass and stuff over there, there'll be like eels and fish hiding.
My son and my daughter like to see what lives in the river, you know, all the life in it. I just like seeing that glow and that interest on their face, and the excitement to be part of it, and I want that to continue for them and their children. This is part of their pepeha. It's part of the whakapapa, of the way to connect with what your ancestors connect with the whenua, with the waterways. We're not just saying words that ko ngariroro te awa, but you're immersing yourself with those waterways, and you're understanding what made it so important for your tupuna, for your forefathers. And the reason it's part of our pepeha is because it sustained us. Behind me is the Heretaunga Plains, the city of Hastings, you can see. These plains were created by a number of rivers we have here. They're flowing down from the hills. We have the Tutaikuri, then the Ngariroro and the Karamu, and just over the other side we have the Tukituki. The waterways still flow underground and overground, and they're all connected, it's all intertwined. All these streams, along with our big major river system, they all contribute to the groundwater. For tangata whenua, the ukaipo, that fresh water from the mountains, you just can't beat it. And we're really fortunate here in Heretaunga that essentially that fresh pristine water that comes from those ranges and through the forests comes underground, and we have it right here on our doorstep.
How come the water's not restored? Because if the water all came from somewhere, then how come it's not still coming?
If you think of all these straws going into these lands, sucking out water, some people have got a bigger straw and they can take out more than others. The population has grown. But that's been a relatively steady increase of water by and large. Well over 50% of the water takes is from irrigation. And the risk is that's going to continue. You see the springs flows dropping, and we think we just take more groundwater and chuck it into the stream, or we do more water storage. That's the opposite of sound, sustainable water management. Our waterways shouldn't have to rely on a consent to replace our springs with taps. The private benefiting businesses, industries, they can exist in Heretaunga, and they have for decades. But where it starts impacting on the general public and those basic necessities of life, then that's a step too far, and that's contrary to respecting Te Mana o Te Wai. The first right should be to the waterways itself. What does it need to sustain itself, to keep the river going, to respect its mana, to respect its mauri, and then we look at people. Everyone should have an ability to drink from it or to immerse and swim in these waterways. And we're trying to have that conversation after too much water's been given out. And that's a hard conversation to have, but it needs to be had. The greater the loss of streams, the greater the loss of our communities to interact with the environment, and they just feel helpless. You know, if we're supposed to be tangata whenua, an obligation for kaitiakitanga, then arguably we're failing in that regard. We have a right to our cultural practices that involve our waterways without them being impeded, without being persecuted, without them being decimated, as part of our treaty right, part of our indigenous right. And that's part of the feeling of our communities where that's been lost and it's taken away and those rights aren't being respected. I don't think it's understood that this is part of a community's identity. We'd like to restore our streams, to restore our springs. We can work with irrigation, but it has to work within sustainable limits. We have to understand what those sustainable limits are environmentally and culturally. This is the whenua we have, and this is what we've got to live with. So there's no going anywhere else. We're here for the long haul, and perhaps that's one of the reasons why we take that long-term approach, because we've been here for a long term and we're not going anywhere.